One of them wanted to be the security guy. He claimed he was a security guy.
Welcome to a belated start time for Security Guy Radio. We're here finally.
We made it.
Sorry for the technical delay. We had some glitches with the Facebook page, but we're streaming live on Facebook, the Chuck Carroll Facebook page as well, and it's being shared by our guest, Christa. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Now, this is a very special edition. We're going to call this the Blue Line edition because we have a lot of things with police officers today. We're going to be speaking with Christa about Blue Line Baby, which, can we see that, Jarvis? Can we see that shot? That's great. It's a chronicle of a cop's kid. You were a cop's kid in the 70s.
Yes.
And I think this is I only read a little bit because I was kind of pressed for time today, but it's really fascinating. Tell me a little bit about your daughter, because this is how we got connected. Was this? I'm tweeting, you know what, those ridiculous tweets I do, Paul, all the goofy stuff I do, right?
Well, I've turned you off. So.
You have turned me off, you little rat bastard. Anyway, so I'm tweeting, something about the show and register for a free show and so on. And instantly when I hit this button, some young lady replies, "You should have my mom on your show." And I go, "Oh, okay, well that's pretty bold."
She's my agent.
Yeah. And I replied, "Well, I'd like to have her on the show." And then she gave me a link and I looked at it. And that's how we got connected.
Yep.
And tell us about your daughter, because this is going to tie into something we're going to do in a minute. It's amazing what she does.
Yes, she's an amazing young lady. My daughter, Christa, has a developmental disability, but she has an amazing connection to the law enforcement community through Special Olympics and the Law Enforcement Torch Run. And law enforcement has been raising money for Special Olympics for the past 30 years.
Yeah.
They've raised $500 million.
$500 million?
$500 million for Special Olympics. So she started an organization called Athletes for Officers as a way to give back to law enforcement and to kind of help them in times of need. So she raises money for officers that are injured. She helps pay for ballistic vests for canines. She helps raise money to purchase new canines for departments. So it's pretty amazing. She's an amazing young lady.
And you say there's this, I don't like the word disability, but I would never notice looking at her or talking to her or watching the posts and stuff. I mean, it's amazing. And she's like 15-ish?
She's 23.
Oh, she's 23.
I
thought, I got your other daughter mixed up. I got my mistake. All right. So, but I mean, she started this very young, right? And for a young person to do that, that's...
She did. She, her very dear friend was a law enforcement officer who was killed in the line of duty. And this was her way of honoring him, was to start Athletes for Officers in his memory. And so it's very near and dear to her heart. And she works very hard to make sure that her officers know how much they are loved and supported.
Now, this is a complete weird coincidence, Paul, because of the book I was doing. The interview, this was booked a couple weeks ago. And a couple weeks before that, I got contacted by another organization, the Patriotic Service Dog Foundation. I remember when we had Veterans Moving Forward, that was the other Service Dog Foundation, right? So there's just this great connection between the service dogs and police and the Blue Line and all that kind of stuff. And so I want to interrupt your show just for a minute.
Sure.
Right? And we're going to go to our little Skyping guest here, Tom Tackett. Is Tom on there, Jarvis? Can you hear me, Tom?
Yes, I can.
Hey, welcome. Welcome to the show. So
Thank you.
Tom runs the Patriotic Service Dog Foundation, and he's at TackettServiceDogs.com. And we want Tom on to talk about the American Ride and Music Festival that's coming up this May 21st and 22nd, this Saturday, Sunday. Is that right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes, Armed Forces Day, Saturday.
Yeah, and in Orange County, where is that going to be?
It's going to be at Lake Irvine, Lakeview Park.
Yeah, and I was speaking with you guys on the phone yesterday. Give us a little bit about how it works. So we have a ride down there, and it all culminates at the music festival. It's really interesting.
Yes, it's going to be a fun 2-day event. It's called the America Ride and Music Festival, and it starts Saturday morning with a ride from Lifestyle Cycles in Anaheim to the event site. And it's going to be, we're hoping 500 to 1,000 motorcycles. And the city of Anaheim has really gotten behind this, and they're going to close down State College Boulevard, which is where Lifestyle Cycles is, and so we can stage the bikes. And then the Highway Patrol is going to escort us down the freeway to the event site, led by the Anaheim fire truck, and then Fueled by the Fallen organization, which is 5 Charger vehicles that have all of the 9/11 victims on the cars.
Oh,
All
I
their
saw
names.
those in Glendale. Yeah, those are amazing
Yeah, it's
vehicles.
really cool.
Very nice. And this
So-
is all to raise money for the Patriotic Service Dog Foundation.
Correct. Which we train dogs for our wounded veterans, service dogs.
Now, your service dogs, you're talking about the physically wounded, and the other organization we talked about was PTSD. Do you do
Yeah.
both or mostly the wounded, physically
No,
wounded?
we do PTSD, TBI, and mobility.
Excellent. Now, we have a little video. It's about 5 minutes long, Jarvis. You got that video ready? And, Tom, I want to play this. This is a video about your organization. And,
Okay,
by the
great.
way, everybody's free to come to this, right? You can get your bike and come on down and
Oh,
join.
absolutely. You
Yeah.
don't have to be a rider at all.
Right.
It's open to the family. It's going to be a kids zone. It's really going to be fun. It's going to be music all day, both days. Various guest speakers, motivational speakers. Everything that you could imagine being at a festival like this.
Well, Paul, that little three-wheeler you bring to the grocery store and shop with, you could bring that
Yeah,
down if
no,
you
I
want
could,
to.
yeah.
You should
Yeah.
get that. Put some little
Speedy Gonzales.
Yeah, little lights on it and stuff. All right, Jarvis, can we roll that video? And we'll be back in about 5 minutes. Take a look at this about the Patriotic Service Dog Foundation.
A lot of the problems I had with PTSD, I didn't want to be around people. I avoided loved ones. I couldn't hold a relationship.
I would go home, not have any energy. I wouldn't be able to sleep at night. I wasn't working out. I wasn't performing well at work. All the answers I could find weren't helping me at all.
In 2011, I was coming back from a listening post observation post patrol, and I stepped on an IED, losing my right leg and my left leg above the knee, left leg below the knee. I've been diagnosed with mild PTSD. I was sick and tired of kind of being a grown man, and I drop a fork and I can't pick it up. I crossed paths with Tom Tech and Tech at Service Dogs when I entertained the idea of getting a service dog.
So he came to me and interviewed him and decided we would get him a dog and train the dog for him at no charge.
I was fortunate enough to get my own dog. You know, I always wanted to help out other guys that have been through the same thing I have. So, you know, making the transition over to training was easy.
And so we trained several dogs for these veterans that needed them. These guys really couldn't afford to pay for these dogs, and I wasn't about to turn them away because they didn't have the money. Some friends of ours watched what we were doing and approached me and said, Tom, you know, we want to help. Why don't we start a nonprofit to help support TAC at Service Dogs so we can provide and train more dogs and do a better job at it. And so we did, and we named it Patriotic Service Dog Foundation.
Patriotic Service Dog Foundation is a nonprofit organization that provides service dogs fully trained at little to no cost to veterans. It's kind of the infancy phase of, you know, something like this where, you know, it's all about just getting the name out there and trying to raise funds that we can actually help these guys.
The training process for a dog is a minimum of 1.5 years to be certified. The cost of a fully trained service dog is $20,000. It's a lot of money, but that's food, that's vet bills, that's training. You know, these dogs are with us 24/7. And we're not receiving any grants from the government, any help from the state or anything. This is all 100% donation funded.
Will you sit? Good.
Training of a service dog depends on the needs of the person. All the dogs are required to perform a minimum of 3 tasks that mitigate somebody's disability. So for instance, like Milan's dog Brody, she's a mobility animal. So she's trained to go get keys for him so he won't fall out of his chair if he's reaching for something. If there's a light switch he can't reach, she'll run over there and flip the light switch on or off for him. And then you've got your psychiatric service dogs that we do, especially for a lot of the guys with PTSD.
The name of my dog is Indy, short for Independence. Once we created a bond, she brought me back into the world. She helped me get into more social situations easier. She helped me feel more comfortable living alone by myself. She wakes me up out of bad dreams. She gives me the reason to live again.
Dobby's there. I know she's gonna watch my back, and I don't have to be afraid. It really brings joy to my life.
Patriotic Service Dog Foundation's motto is 22 to 0. And what that represents is 22 veterans a day commit suicide. And our goal is to make that 0. To this point, anybody that's received a service dog from us has not committed suicide. We have found that the veterans that have completed our course and have their dogs at home with them have gotten off most of the medications, if not all of them.
One of the primary painkillers I was on was methadone. So I had heroin withdrawals for about 2 months, just trying to get off of that medication. And I will never take that again. I will never take any of that medication again.
I just feel a lot more comfortable having a big German Shepherd with you, and I find that it helped better than half the medication they try to give you.
As a veteran, I was hurting for way too long, and I know there's other people out there, just like me, my brothers and sisters that are in pain. And if I can spread some of this awareness myself, and if we can do it through Patriotic Service Dog Foundation, that know that these animals help people, they help me, and I'm not the only one in pain. If anyone's out there looking for one of these dogs and needs help, you come to this organization, you talk to Tom Tackett, and I guarantee you, you're gonna create a bond and you're gonna find that brotherhood you once had. It's one of those things that once you get that again, you're gonna feel alive again.
We would love to help them if we can, simply by going to patrioticservicedogfoundation.org. Just contact us, and if we can help, we absolutely will.
Dobby, she means the world to me, and I'm trying hard to give her as much of a good life as she's given me. I don't know how I was able to live without her in the past, and this organization.
A lot of people don't get to go home and say, I really affected somebody's life today. It's such a great feeling to be able to do that every single day. I couldn't ask for anything else. Plus, I get to help guys that have been through what I've been through, and it's kind of like helping me get better by helping them.
I can honestly say that the Patriotic Service Dog Foundation has saved my life.
To support the Patriotic Service Dog Foundation, visit us online and check out theamericaride.com to find out more about our 2-day fundraiser in Silverado, California on May 21st and 22nd.
Tom, thank you very much.
Yeah,
That was that's a very great video, very moving, very good.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah,
Now,
you did a good job on it.
how much does a dog cost these days to get them up and running?
Well, typically a minimum of $20,000 if we start with a puppy and train them all the way up through certification at a minimum of 18 months. That's for the purchase of the dog if we need to buy them, vet bills, food, training, supplies, just whatever the dog may need to get the finished product.
Well, this is a great cause, and
Yeah.
unfortunately I'll be in San Francisco doing some other shows, but I would have liked to come down and cover it. But next year for sure. So everybody, we're going to go to AmericanRide.com. Tom, is that the best place to find info?
Sure, AmericanRide.com for the ride this weekend, and hope to see you there.
All right, Tom Tackett,
All right.
Patriotic Service Dog Foundation, TackettServiceDogs.com, AmericanRide.com, and Music Festival. That's May 21st to 22nd this weekend, so make sure you guys go down there and support. Bring your motorcycles, your cars, just show up and have a lot of fun, and it'll be a
I
great
can bring my
cause.
trike,
Bring your tricycle down there.
Yeah.
The one. Very good.
Tricycles are welcome.
Tom, thanks for Skyping in. We'll
Thank you.
catch
Thanks
you
for
later.
having us.
All right.
Cheers.
All right. Back to the case at hand. There was that fade button. I'm buying you a fade button for Christmas. What is it? You gotta.
They're saying applause.
Yeah, but people don't just stop applauding; they fade their applause.
But you have to talk.
How am I going to fake people into our live audience here? If you. Oh, okay. Talking, nobody knows. Yeah, nobody knows that severe cutoff. Anyway. All right. So we're back with Christa. Now, say your name out loud for me.
Trinchera.
Trinchera, because it's Italian. All right.
It's Italian.
Author of Blue Line Baby, Chronicles of a Cop's Dad, Chronicles of Your Life as a Child Growing Up in the 70s as a Police Officer's Child. Now,
Yeah.
I read part of it. I was kind of pressed for time, but it's very easy to read, and it's just a nice, warm feeling when you get reading this. My kids might have a different approach. They might not have thought it was such a great thing. I don't know, in this day, because I was always about protecting them. I was like, oh man, everybody's crazy world out there, right? And
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
So tell us about your dad. Tell us what inspired this and how you came to write it.
Well, I had the privilege of attending National Police Week 2 years ago.
That's in Washington, D.C.
In Washington, D.C. Unfortunately, we were there to add the name of a fallen hero who was a close friend. While I was there, I was experiencing all of the pomp and circumstance surrounding National Police Week. And yesterday was National Peace Officers Memorial Day.
Right.
So it was very surreal being there and taking it all in. And I started thinking about my dad's career and what an amazing career he had. And I started thinking about, policing today. It's very different.
It is.
And, my dad was an officer in the 60s, 70s, 80s. He retired in the 90s. So being an officer in the 60s and 70s, we're talking 1 Adam 12 and chips. I mean, they were rock stars.
Right.
It's very different today.
It's true. When the cops drove down my street in the 70s, everybody waved at them. They said hi. They got out of the car. They said hi to you. And I'm not saying that's the police's fault that it doesn't happen now as much. I think it's a cultural shift. And it's sad.
It is. I really wanted to document my dad's career kind of as a way of just telling the story of what it was like back then. Some of the things that he faced as an officer in that era, and what it was like through my eyes as the child of a police officer. We grow up differently.
Now, did you feel it, though, at the time? Did you think it was different?
Oh, absolutely.
Now, why so? Besides the fact that you lived in the middle of the redwood forest and there was no kids to play with, that's part. We'll get to that part of the story later. But initially, what was the difference?
My family all wore badges. We didn't have relatives around us, but that didn't mean we didn't have family. The officers that my dad worked with, his sergeants, they were all our family.
Right.
And they embraced us as such. And so, I knew that the other kids in school, they didn't have that same experience. And it wasn't always positive. I mean, growing up in a small town, and eventually your dad has arrested the majority of your friends' parents.
I know what that feels like,
there's that.
Yeah.
And that was the negative. But for the most part, it was really fun. I mean, as a youngster, I grew up shooting guns and loading bullets. And I think in kindergarten, I was in the sandbox teaching my friends how to weigh gunpowder. We just grow up different, know.
Well, I remember my kids were very young, right before I retired. I used to take them to the station, put them in the car, and they got a big kick out of it and stuff. And they're some of their friends knew what I did, right? Or they come to the house, and they were scared to death. And they're also very...
and they still are.
Well, they actually still are, as a matter of fact. They just all graduated college, and I'm still Mr. Harold when they come over, right?
Yep.
But not scared from a... not that I'm not going to help him or not. It's just that, he's a cop, and what does that mean? And, they're all good kids, right?
Right.
And I think it's sad that now a perception is that the police are not there to help you. And Paul, you got the London Bobby model where police are helpful.
Yeah, but that's changed a little
Has it?
bit.
Okay.
Yeah, it's definitely changed over the years, unfortunately. But, yeah, I mean, I think it still is more of a social... thing, the police. But you probably had that in the smaller community. You probably really got that social part of it where you're a police officer to help people.
It's Mayberry RFD.
Part of the social services, really.
So we went to the LAPD Academy today before the show.
We did.
Because that's where your dad graduated in 1960, you said?
1960. He was the youngest recruit in his graduating class.
Wow.
He was 21 years old.
And then he transferred to...
California Highway Patrol in 1966.
Oh, from LAPD. I thought it was one in the middle. So LAPD Highway Patrol, and that was the rest of his career, right?
Yes.
So, just tell us about him. What kind of career did he have? What did he do? What did he work?
He had a very interesting career. Like I said, he started with LAPD, and, it was really fun, especially now as an adult looking back and saying, gosh, my dad was the original 1 Adam 12. He and his partner were actually assigned 1 Adam 12.
Oh, seriously?
Oh, really?
Seriously.
Oh, that's
seriously.
amazing.
They were the original, in 1961.
One's Parker Center, right?
I've got no idea.
I think one's Parker Center headquarters. Adam is a 2-man unit, and then 12 is the car number. Yeah. So that's.
See, we was watching Z cars when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little bit different.
It was really fun later, because I used to watch Adam 12 as a kid, but I didn't really put 2 and 2 together. And cruising, it was different back then. We had a 1962 Pontiac, later a 2-barrel carburetor. I mean, they had some souped-up cars back then. They wore racing straps and helmets, and cruising speed was 120 miles an hour. I mean, it was just...
did he say things like, just a fax man? Or what?
I don't think so. If you got a helmet on, you don't need to say that.
I don't think I've ever heard those words come out of my father's mouth.
So what did he work at LAPD? What were his assignments?
He worked juvenile division. He worked Pasadena freeways.
That was an assignment. That was probably new back then. The 110.
It's probably the only freeway, wasn't it?
Well, it might have been close, but I mean, yeah.
After being assigned to juvenile division, he really had a tough time, kind of coping with the way the system worked.
And how long did he work that? A couple years?
A couple of years. He didn't, you see the same kids and going back into the same situations. That was difficult for
Either
him.
being arrested or being victims or, that's tough stuff.
And that was bad then.
That was
imagine
back
what
then.
it's like now.
Yeah.
That was back then. Yep. So he decided to make a change, and prior to that, he was in the Watts riots. So that was kind of a piece of history while he was with LAPD. Yeah. Right. It was August 11th, 1965. The Watts riots. A 46 square mile combat zone. It was pretty intense even back then. 6 days of just absolute mayhem. And my mom was a dispatcher
for
that's LAPD.
They met at work?
They met at work. Yeah.
How romantic
he
is
liked
that? Jarvis, is that romantic?
Now, did they meet over the, was he in a car and she was talking to him?
He liked
her
the
voice.
Sound of her voice.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's right.
All right.
1 Adam 12. 1 Adam 12. Oh, I'm in love with that woman. Well, voice is very powerful. That's why I don't let Jarvis talk anymore, because all the chicks want to call in and talk to him because of his deep voice. Deeper than mine, that's no good. But I get it.
Well, and dispatch is the lifeline. So
exactly. Very important,
Yeah. So he went in to meet the woman behind the voice, and the rest is history. So
that is really that's a great story. That's a great story.
It is. So in 1966, he entered the California Highway Patrol Academy.
So kind of after the riots, it was like, you know what?
Yeah.
Change.
Yeah. He was ready for a change. So, joining the California Highway Patrol was interesting because growing up with the academy and learning all there is to learn about the CHP, when I was writing this book, I got to hear some stories that I had never heard before. For instance, when my dad entered the academy, he had to bring his own firearm.
Oh, well.
So he brought with him his own Colt Python.
Oh, right.
All right, this guy.
Man after my own
This
heart.
guy's right out of Central Casting, all right? He's got a Colt Python.
Proper gun.
A Plymouth 2-barrel.
Not like that thing you carry.
Yeah, a 1 M12. And the guy's, he's like a movie cop.
Well, definitely. Jarvis, do we have the picture of my dad on LAPD? Yeah, he looked the part. Yeah. So, he graduated in late 1966 and was assigned to Golden Gate Division. He had 51 other classmates that were also assigned to Golden Gate Division. For the first 2 weeks, they worked graveyard shift, and they were working 5 officers to a car. Can you imagine what that was like being pulled over?
5 officers to a car?
5 officers to a car.
What was it? What? Oh, I've never heard of such a thing.
Can you imagine when they pulled someone over, all 5 of them getting out at the same time?
Well, that's the safest damn traffic stop in the state, for
Mind you,
sure.
they were big cars in those days.
Well, that's true.
So
they were,
not
but
like what you're getting
man,
now.
that's like going to a driver's ed in high school. That would be pretty hairy. Depending on who's
do you
driving.
suppose they did Rochambeau to see who got to sit with the bad guy if they had to book someone? I don't know.
That's strange. I mean, maybe was it a budget thing? What was it?
They had so many at the
Just
time
a high
that they
class
were
at the
breaking
time.
in.
Oh, I see. High
So
class.
the Golden Gate, that's San Francisco, right?
Yes, San Francisco
So all those
area.
5 people in a car and they're going up and down those hills like you see on Clint Eastwood movies.
So after his first 2 weeks assigned to Golden Gate, he was assigned to be a break-in officer because he had prior law enforcement experience.
Is that a training officer kind of, or?
Yes, and so he was training his fellow classmates. How about that?
Interesting. Very interesting. Hey, hold that thought 1 second. We can take a break, Jarvis, about 7:30, right? So we're going to play a little quick video with a terrorist update. Remember John from PlaceSmart a couple weeks ago? Yeah. So he did a little video for us. We want to just chime in here and take a quick break. We'll be back in a minute on Security. Get ready to watch this terrorism update from John of PlaceSmart.
This report was published by a group called Action on Armed Violence. In this report, Unacceptable Harm, they showed that over 33,000 civilian deaths were attributed to explosive devices in 2015. This is a 54% increase over the numbers from 2011. This report's pretty dramatic in the fact that it shows that our threat from terrorism is growing. It's not decreasing as we are being led to believe by other groups. In addition, over 9,000 individuals were killed by suicide bombers in 2015 alone. This is a number that is much larger than the previous year. We do know that terrorism is growing worldwide. We know that it's a threat here in the United States. We have to look at new technologies here in the United States because ISIS has shown itself to be an adaptable, smart, intelligent terrorist group. They no longer use traditional methodologies of communication that we can readily intercept with electronic means. So we have to look at indicators of intent. We know that they do not wear uniforms, which is another major indicator. So what do? We have to look at technology such as video analytics. Video analytics are a great indicator of intent. Why? Because they take uncommon behavior, such as a vehicle driving around a building 6 or 7 times, and all of a sudden stopping in front of that building and then blowing up. That's the Timothy McVeigh situation. Had we utilized LPR, we could have identified that situation and said that this vehicle has done this activity. We need to start utilizing this type of technology in much greater numbers here domestically in order to identify these groups that would do harm to us. We know that these groups are growing in strength. We have over 1,000 active investigations against ISIS members as of 2015. We know that they are recruiting in all 50 states. So they are growing much faster than our methodologies by which we can identify them. So through the use of ALPR technologies and other video analytic technologies, we can start to identify indicators of intent. And that's what exactly these technologies provide us. Unfortunately, we do not have these technologies fully deployed at this time. But as we start to deploy these technologies in greater numbers, the technology itself will start to indicate who these people are and will help us identify these events before they can occur. And hopefully we can prevent the next 9/11 from occurring.
All right, welcome back to Security Guy Radio with my guest, Christa Waaler Trinchera. Did I get it right?
Trinchera.
Trinchera. Darn, I can't get the Italian names right.
I would have got that.
I can't get the Italian names right. I'm not making fun. I really can't get it
That's
right.
quite all right.
I'm sorry, but anyway,
But you got Waaler correct. Most people
I'm
don't
glad I
get
got
that
Waaler
one.
right. That's good. Well, we're talking about Chronicles of a Cop's Kid, and this is a recollection of your life growing up as a child of a police officer.
Yes.
Who your dad is? He's like a stud, right? He's one Adam 12. He's in the riots. What was the other one? He had the.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
No, there's 3 things you talk about that are like, his Colt Python.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's
right. Yeah, but that was when he joined the Chippies, right?
Yes, when he came on CHP in 1966. Yeah, he was carrying a Colt Python.
All right, now he was assigned to San Francisco. Where were you guys living?
Well, I wasn't born yet.
Okay, all right.
My mom remained in Los Angeles area.
Oh, because she was still dispatcher at LAPD.
She was still with LAPD. My dad came down Baldwin Park and was working freeways, and then put in for a transfer to a resident post in the northernmost point of California on the Oregon border.
Oh, up by Weed, up there.
North of Weed,
oh,
yes.
That's pretty north. It was north of Weed.
So why did he do that?
You know, they wanted to get out of Los Angeles. They had my older brother, who was just an infant at the time, and they really wanted to raise a family outside of Los Angeles. Yeah. So they decided to go up north, way up north.
Well, you know, that's in the 70s, and he had a lot. He had a lot of perception to think about it then, because in the 70s was kind of a cool place. It wasn't too bad, but he could see it coming.
He could see it coming.
Like my Irish Uncle Jack used to say, if God was going to give the world an enema, he'd stick it in Los Angeles. He did not like Los Angeles.
Oh, he already has.
Yeah, maybe it already has. That's correct.
Oh yeah, I just had to walk down here. It was,
right.
So you moved. So you're born in this little town. So you're a small time gal.
I was born in Oregon, in Klamath Falls, Oregon, because it was the closest hospital.
Yeah.
They had to go over the border to get to the hospital. But yes, it was small town USA. My dad was a resident post officer. He was one of 2.
Explain what that means to my nieces and nephews.
Resident post officer is you operate out of your home. He had a division office that dispatch and whatnot was housed at, but he parked the patrol car in the driveway, and he was on call 24/7.
Wow.
Dispatch would ring the phone if he wasn't in the car, and he would put on his uniform and be called out.
Now, was that like a police station? So did he have a little station in there, or was it just a house?
It was just a house. He did have a small office where he would write his reports, and then he would go into Wairika, the closest office, and
It's a great town. It's a neat little town.
Yep, and deliver his reports, and that's where he would book any prisoners. If he had prisoners, he would have to drive them to Wairika.
So your town was about how far out of Wairika? Hour?
An hour and a half, depending on the snow.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah,
this was
snow,
the 70s, so we had lots of snow, icy conditions. It was mountainous territory, lots of log truck accidents. And,
So he's the sole police officer for what, 1,000 square miles or something like that?
Yeah, hundreds of square miles
Hundreds, yeah.
at least.
And his backup is what, an hour away on a good day?
Maybe.
If they're rolling out at Wairika, yeah.
If he had to, he could call on Fish and Game, or Caltrans were typally.
Well, I'd want Caltrans back.
Yeah,
That's,
so would I.
that's the number one thing I'd make a
I
call
mean, if
to.
he got in a bind,
Bring those orange cones. I'm half kidding, but I mean, that doesn't warm your heart to think that
No.
Caltrans is rolling. But listen, anybody that helps you if you're that.
Forest Service. Oftentimes, because of the mountainous terrain, he wouldn't have a radio signal.
Oh, my gosh.
So my mom had a CB in the house, and she would call a fire lookout when they had these tall towers.
Oh, that's
on
right, in the
highest,
forest. Yeah,
yes,
people lived in
on
those
the
things,
tall
yeah.
peaks. And she would call one of the lookout operators and ask them to use their big binoculars and ask if they could see my dad anywhere. And just so she could know that he was okay, because he would work an accident for, sometimes 18 hours.
Yeah.
And
Oh, it was a fatality.
There's no
especially.
GPS or anything like that. You were out.
Man,
there,
that's
weren't
old
you?
school.
No cell phones, oftentimes no radios. So, yeah. And it was frigid cold weather, so he would, have the spikes on the bottom of his shoes and all of the cold weather gear. And, it was an interesting time. It was.
Now, did he ever have, a time where he needed some backup and, it took a long time to get there, or, any close call stories like that? I mean.
Oh, sure. I mean, he had plenty of issues that, he would. Well, he didn't really have CHP backup very close by, but he would definitely call in, Fish and Game or Forest Service to come and lend a hand. But,
What kind of cases did he have? What kind of things happened? I mean, accidents are one thing, but I mean, was it wild marijuana parties or the forest or something, or what?
No, there's one story that I write about in the book where a large bull had been hit by a car and was seriously injured. And so, this was farmland, this was farm country, this was someone's bread and butter.
Yeah.
So my dad responds, it's a highway hazard. So he responds, and this bull it's still alive, but it's not going to make it. So out of respect for the owner of this bull, they have to identify the brand, call someone that has a brand book.
Oh. Jeez.
Yeah.
And call the farmer to come out. What do you want to do with this bull? Well, let's put him out of his misery. So my dad decides to, put one between the eyes.
With the cold python.
With the python.
It would take something like
That's
that
right.
at all.
And the bull gets up.
After he shot him?
After he shot him.
Oh, that's a pissed off bull.
And charges him.
Oh.
And so
Oh, my
they're
gosh.
doing a round robin sort of thing around the patrol car, and he leans in and he had a big slug that he carried for situations as such, and he was able to take down this really angry bull.
Wow.
That's 1,000 pound of animal.
Oh,
wasn't it?
yeah.
Yeah. And it was not taking too kindly to being shot between the eyes.
Sure.
So but those are the kinds of, you never knew. He would find, this was back in the early 70s, and you could, where kindness went a long way. And so you would have a lot of people passing through that would have car trouble, or they would have an accident, and it would take a day or 2 or 3 to get parts in for the repairs to be done and whatnot. And in one case, it was a young college student. She was on her way to Portland or to, go to school. And her car breaks down, and it's late at night, and no cell phones back then, so she doesn't have any money, and so my dad winds up bringing her to our house, and my mom sits up with her, and they're trying to reach her parents, and today if you did that, can you imagine?
Couldn't. You couldn't, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But back then, when you're in a little tiny town, and it was all about just reaching out and helping people. It was being a good steward of what you're given. So, my dad was always that kind of person. He was always going the extra mile.
And he still is, by the way. He's still with us.
He still is.
All right, want to talk about him present tense?
Yes.
Just saying.
But when he was working the road, road, his trunk was like, he had everything under the sun in there.
Well, you have to. You got to be self-survival.
Right. He had all kinds of, antifreeze and you name it. He had it in that trunk. So.
Let's talk about dispatching, right? So he's a resident. He lives in the house. That's his police station.
Yes.
When he gets a call, he rolls. Is he just kind of doing general patrol when he's not getting a call?
Yes. He would patrol the beat looking for speeders. We were near a bug inspection station because we were near the border. So people that didn't stop, for the proper inspection of their produce or what have you that they were bringing into the state, those kinds of situations. It was back then. Chips was just becoming a phenomenon, and so people would stop. They would flag him down, and he would think, motorist needs help. They just wanted a picture with him.
because of the TV show.
Because of the television show Chips. In 1977, when Chips became popular, California Highway Patrol became like rock stars.
Yeah, it's true.
And so, people were pulling over, and he's trying to write a citation, and people are stopping on the other side of the freeway to take a picture. Far cry from where we are today. Very far cry.
Well, let's talk about image briefly, because this ties into you're painting an amazing image of what public service is and what it should be, and not dissimilar to the Bobbies back in the day when it was all about help and they didn't have to carry guns and all that kind of stuff, right? And it's different now.
It's very different.
Here's how I think it's different. Paul, maybe you disagree. I think the cops are the same. Cops are basically the same throughout history. They're all kind of the same. Yeah. We're a little curmudgeon-y, but we're helpful. But we want to protect ourselves. There's all these things going on at the same time.
Well, most coppers get into the business because they want to help people.
They want to help people. That's it.
But it's not what they do. It's who they are.
Yeah. Right. It's who they are. Yeah. It's a very good way to put it.
Who they are.
Yeah.
And the media now wants to change that into we are going to define you as something else.
Yeah.
And that's wrong.
Right.
I don't think that's what's happening. But it's not a police officer's nature to really kind of walk around and piss and moan about stuff. So they're quiet maybe, and they just do their job heroically, quietly, and the media controls the image. And does your dad ever watch things on TV now and say, you know what, but back in the day, that's not how we did it, and that kind of thing? Does he miss it? He probably still misses it.
I don't think he misses it.
No, okay. Well, if I got to work at kill cows in the middle of winter, I might not miss it either. But
well, he only did that for a brief time, but when he was ready to retire, he was ready. It was time to hang up the gun belt. He was done. He left the resident post after 11 years and went to air operations. We moved to Redding.
Oh, Redding's another cool town. That's a beautiful area up there.
It is.
So you were born and raised out in the woods there up to about 11. Roughly.
I was, yes. And so when we moved to Redding, and he was flying in the helicopters, he was the observer in the helicopter, and he absolutely loved that. We were in Shasta County. I mean, you're flying over Lake Shasta and Mount Shasta, and beautiful. But, he had an unfortunate experience in 1980, and the helicopter went down in the Trinity Alps. And, it was a close call. We didn't know their condition for quite some time. It was different back then. Now you have all of these.
Oh, yeah, GPS and everything.
And you have these chaplaincy services that come in and be with the family and whatnot. We got a phone call from dispatch. I mean, that helicopter went down. We don't know anything. So, after a scary 4 hours of waiting to learn if my dad was okay, after that, my mom kind of said, "I think we're done with air ops.
Oh, okay.
I think
all
we
right.
need to choose
so
another."
She's cold, is she?
She was, pretty adamant that we're not going to do this again. So he promoted to sergeant and was assigned to Sacramento to the academy as an accident investigation instructor.
Well, that's cool. I graduated from there, the Motor Academy. It's a great academy.
It's an amazing academy.
Yeah, it's one of the best in the world. It really is.
And really, that's where I grew up.
More in Sacramento.
And at the academy.
Okay.
You know, I used to love to go to work with my dad on the weekends and just hang around and just see the cadets. It was just such an amazing place. I call it my second home because I have such fond memories every time I go there.
Well, Chuck, when did you graduate?
I went to Motor Academy in 87.
Well, was that about the same time?
Oh, I wonder, yeah.
I think he would, in 87, he was in the commissioner's office, so he was no longer at the academy. But he spent some time.
He would have remembered Chuck.
Yes, probably.
Well, unfortunately, that does say, my reputation does precede me, I must say. I had the unfortunate incident of during the motorcycle training, driving through the sand pit.
Uh-huh.
And I had passed everything with flying colors. And when I got to the sand pit, the handlebars locked. It stopped moving. I didn't stop moving.
Uh-oh.
And
that's what happens.
Mr. Happy hit the handlebars, and I had a little problem there for a while.
Oh.
It was a little painful for a couple of weeks, and then turned into a 6-month thing. So, but a great academy, and the instructor is very professional. What was really cool is, by the way, if you told me your dad was a motor on top of this, I'd say, oh my God, I have to worship the guy.
No, he was not a motor. He would have loved to have been a motor.
I would have been the ultimate. Because, they're the prima donnas. We get it, right? So you get your... first day at the academy, we're all in our little jumpsuits we had to wear for training on the motorcycle, right? And a group of us, they say, you guys, you live there for the academy.
Yes.
And we walk in the cafeteria, and there's all these cadets walking around, and all of a sudden this giant hole opens up in the line, and everybody snaps to attention and says, buy your leave, sir, buy your leave, sir, buy your leave, sir. What are you talking about? Buy my leave. What? And they all line up against the wall and let us go right to the front of the line. And the motors could do anything they wanted at the academy. That people had to get out of the way. You could take their parking space. It was really kind of cool. The only time I was ever actually respected as a police officer, right? I was in the Motor Academy. But it's a very professional organization, and I can see why you'd have a lot of fun there. It's a neat place.
It's really a neat place. I had the amazing privilege of learning to drive. My dad, when I was 16, he had a female EVOC instructor who he thought she would be better suited to teach me to drive than he would. So I had the privilege.
You got to go to EVOC? That is so cool. Tell me what that is.
Well, the emergency vehicle operations course is an amazing high-speed track as well as a skid pan, which I think everyone that goes through driver's training should have to do the skid pan.
Yeah.
I mean,
I've done EVOC twice. It's amazing.
Yeah. So it was really an awesome experience. But after my dad left the academy, he was assigned to the commissioner's office and did some time in there. And
this is the CHP commissioner.
The CHP commissioner, and the commissioner is appointed by the governor. And
I didn't know that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So he was with the commissioner's office for quite some time, and then moved on into the governor's office. And he served under both Duke Majan and Wilson.
Oh, interesting.
And worked their details. And that was where something really incredible happened. Duke Majan and President Reagan were very good friends. And one of the opportunities that Reagan had was to go to Japan to throw out the first ball in the World Series. People don't know this, but President Reagan didn't take empty planes when he went overseas. He took family members of military personnel.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, and my brother
just kind of randomly said, hey, come along and get on a ride. Yeah.
Well, they often don't get to see their families very often. It was just something that he liked to do. So he invited us to come along at the request of Governor Duke Majan. My brother was stationed in Misawa Air Force Base in Japan. And so we had the opportunity to travel with the Reagans.
Wow.
Yeah.
On Air Force One?
10 days. 10 days. There was Air Force One, and then the Japanese government chartered a 747.
Well, Air Force 1.5, kind of a lower budget.
So there was a split off
there.
Oh,
because there's so many people to travel,
So we went, in the picture that was just shown, that's my dad on board the aircraft with President Reagan. We were not separated. He came around and interacted with us, and
how nice!
It was incredible.
I wonder if anybody else has ever done that.
You met President Reagan at Fox.
Times,
His office was at the top of Fox Tower.
Yeah, and at number 10, he came and visited Thatcher.
Hold on a second. It's a Security Radio exclusive. You met him as a Bobby at Maggie Thatcher's house, number 10 Downing Street. And then 25 years later, you're meeting them as the president of the States.
And I'll tell you another story. When I was working Thatcher, I actually met Murdoch.
Oh, and then you went to work for him.
And then I went and worked for him. I mean, it was only, fleeting. But,
this is some MI5, MI6 stuff. Some connection there. You're a British spy. You're on my show. You're a British spy. No doubt about it.
Small world.
Squirrel stuff.
Yeah, secret squirrel stuff. So you got to go to Japan. You got to, hang out with people and tour and talk to the Reagans. How nice is that?
And, he gifted all of us with jackets with the presidential seal, which was really incredible. I was a teenager at the time, so I didn't quite grasp the magnitude.
So this was you. I don't want to go. What am I doing here? I don't like my daughter. I don't want to be in the president's
Who the hell's
plane.
Reagan?
Who's Reagan? I want
I'm
to go home.
tired.
Yeah, exactly.
It was a long flight.
That's great. No, I wonder if any other presidents have ever done that. No,
Not to my knowledge.
That's just great, isn't it?
Well, my dad had a pretty good relationship with Secret Service.
Oh, you have a Secret Service story, I think, to tell us.
Secret Service would often train at the CHP Academy. They would come into town and they would do trainings together out there. Yeah. And so my dad, always the gracious host would invite the Secret Service agents to our house to have dinner. And so they would come over and pizza and beer, and they'd start telling stories. And so I loved to sit by and listen to these stories. I mean, they were telling really good stories. Some I could never share.
Wow. You got to tell us off camera. I got to hear this.
But so I had mentioned that I had a date that night. I was getting ready to go out on a date, but I was enjoying waiting for my date, sitting there listening to these stories. And one of the guys says, hey, I thought you were going on a date. And I kind of said, well, yeah, but he's late. And they were like, uh-oh, what? So when the doorbell finally rang, these 6 or so Secret Service agents said, we'll get the door.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
So my dad's just grinning ear to ear, he's probably thinking the same thing I am. What the heck is going to happen out there? After a few minutes, I didn't see my date. So I decided to go and check on him and see what was going on. And I walked out the front door, and they have the poor guy proned out on the driveway.
Oh, really?
What? Oh, no.
They have the doors of his car open, and they're going through everything in the car. And they're matching serial numbers. It was
those crazy Secret Service guys.
I know,
and their sense of humor. What were that? Was this a joke, or what were they doing?
Oh, they were messing with him.
That's a big messing.
For being late.
Oh, man.
So they let him go. And he was bad. He didn't open my door for me, and that was a whole other issue. So when we get in the car, they knock on the window and are saying, and you better not bring her home late. So I think we were gone maybe 20 minutes. We went to ice cream or something and came back. I mean, it was definitely not the date that we had planned. But after that, he was like, yeah. Came home, he never said a word to me. He didn't ask me any questions or anything. Came home, dropped me off, and left. And I never heard from him again. And I
wonder why.
I'm thinking this guy is probably still asking himself, who the heck was she that she has Secret Service?
Yeah.
Oh, we should look him up. We should look him up on Facebook and try. Jarvis, you should look him up on Facebook and try to get him to log in. That'd be kind of funny. That's pretty wild.
It was pretty
but
funny.
did you like this guy? I'm glad you have a sense of humor. If I did that to my daughter, that would be the end of me. That would just be. She never talked to me again.
Well, I didn't necessarily like him after he was so late picking me up.
Oh, well, okay. Oh, okay.
I
side
like
with you on that
people to
one.
be on time and to be true to their word.
I bet you was never late for his next date after that.
Well,
he probably never had another date. He's probably still single.
He's probably spinning in a corner somewhere, still trying to figure it out.
All right. So what did Dad do after he left the commissioner's office? He retired from there?
When he was getting close to retirement, he really wanted to go back to his really true love, and that was air ops. So
even after Mom said no?
Even after Mom said no, but he went back as a sergeant, and so he was not actively in the air. He was the commanding of the unit there. So he wanted to retire doing what he loved. So he went back to air ops, and he retired in 1996. And it was a great career. My daughter likes to say that her grandpa is a tired CHP officer.
Not retired, tired.
And I think she's right. After a long career like that, he put in his time. So
Has he gone back into anything, with helicopters now in retirement?
No, not with helicopters.
And he never got his license or privately flew? Oh,
no.
Interesting.
Yeah. But, helicopters was really kind of his thing.
Yeah.
And, interesting in that, none of us kids went into law enforcement, but,
Now, that's interesting. Were you interested initially or what?
Absolutely. I wanted to fly helicopters. That was my dream. In the book, I talk a lot about how I developed this crazy passion for helicopters. But I'm legally blind, so I couldn't pass the physicals.
I'm sorry to hear that. All right.
That's okay. It's something you learn to live with, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So I didn't get into law enforcement, but interestingly enough, my daughter, with her foundation and her connection with law enforcement, she was awarded the Commissioner's Medal of Distinction, which
the CHP commissioners.
Yes,
okay.
This is a high honor paid by CHP, and this was the 5th one in the history of the California Highway Patrol to be awarded.
Ever? Since the beginning?
Ever,
wow.
since 1929.
That's impressive.
And it was in recognition of her foundation and her support of law enforcement.
Fabulous. So it's a civilian award.
It's a civilian award,
wow.
and
5 of them.
It's just kind of really a great way to kind of finalize, the legacy that my dad created. And the true honor and respect for public service, and it's carried on through the generations. So
now you sound very grateful to be the child of a police officer in a police family.
I am.
Tell us why you think that way.
Because I know the sacrifice that our law enforcement make. I've seen what my father has gone through. The hard hours. Dealing with death, dealing with fear. These guys really, they put it all out there.
And the families participate in that, right? Because you're as the family member, you're getting residual blow off from that. You're getting a bad day at the office. You're getting quiet silence because it's difficult to talk about, right? And that's very important to have that perspective on things.
It is, and it's important to have for our law enforcement officers to have that supportive family, to have that support system at home.
Did you think you had fewer friends than you would have liked since Dad was arresting everybody in the town eventually?
No, I had the greatest friends ever because
Good, all right.
They were law enforcement officers.
Oh, well, okay. Okay, there's another thing. We only have a couple minutes, but I have a lot of friends, and I have a lot of real friends, not just Facebook friends, but good friends. A lot of them are law enforcement, not all, and that's a difficult transition for police officers to make, to have friends outside law enforcement.
Right.
Would you agree, Paul?
Oh, yeah.
It's not always easy, and most of them tend to stay within the law enforcement community.
Yeah, although, coming up where I was in London, it was a little bit different.
Yeah.
Because it was so mixed.
Right.
And you was policing in where you was born.
Right.
That's true.
So it was a little bit different.
So do you feel as the child of a police officer that you may have lost some friends because they weren't in the police community because they didn't want to socialize with you or something?
Some of them, especially in the small town, because like I said, their parent may have been cited or arrested by my dad, last night. And so they're not going to be nice to me at school the next day. Those kinds of situations happen.
It's very hard to describe to people that aren't in it, but it is kind of a unique extended family.
It is.
I can't think of any of my police officer friends that if they needed something for their kids, I wouldn't be there just if they were my kids.
Absolutely.
Well, again, I think, once a cop, always a cop. Right?
Yeah.
Amen.
That's it.
Yeah.
Mr. Jarvis, have I getting the finger? Mr. Jarvis is giving us the finger, the 1 minute finger.
All right.
So we got to fade out. So Blue Line Baby, Chronicles of a Cop's Kid, Christina, Waaler, Trinchera. Trinchera. Good heavens. I got to bone off my Italian. Christy, thank you very much for coming in.
Thank
All
you.
kidding aside, very interesting read. You guys check it out, Blue Line Baby. BlueLineBaby.com, right?
BlueLineBaby.com.
Let me get that. There we go. Got the shot there, Jarvis? All right. You come on again and give us some updates. And how's your dad doing, by the way? Is he having fun in his retirement?
He's doing amazing. He's having lots of fun in retirement.
And what's his first name?
Dale.
Dale, you're a stud, dude. I really think you're awesome. Thanks for letting us talk about your career as a police officer. We'll see you again next week on Security Guy Radio.
Thanks for tuning in.
Cheers.